I always thought of myself as a kept man, a boy toy. It wasn't until Ethan's failed suicide attempt and Monica was on her knees outside his hospital room, begging for forgiveness, that I had my wake-up call. Even my brother in arms, my partner in this gigolo life, was just a replaceable stand-in to them. And the woman who jumped for love? In their world, she was nothing more than a dirty little secret. They talk about strategic marriages while chasing true love, expecting us toys to just sit quietly and wait to be picked. I finally saw it clearly. In their world, marriage is a chess game, lovers are disposable, and the only thing you can't put on the table as a bargaining chip is your brother. The real heir, Ethan, and I hit it off immediately, embarking on a slacker's life of coasting and waiting for the end. He went after the Manhattan it girl, while I latched on her older sister. In less than a year, we were both carrying thermoses and sipping on goji berry tea. Then the rumors started swirling through the grapevine. The Vanderbilt sisters were getting engaged, but our names were nowhere on the list of grooms. Ethan asked, "Bro, you got enough cash saved up?" I replied, "Dude, if we're careful, it should be just enough to get by." Ethan said, "My back is killing me. I can't take this anymore. It's time to bail." I was right there with him. "Hell yeah, bro. Let's run together." With our arms slung around each other's shoulders, we boarded the plane, thinking we were finally making our grand escape. But the plane was forced to turn back, and we ended up kneeling on durian shells, trembling in fear. Ethan was dragged into a room by the it girl, Monica, and soon the sharp crack of a whip echoed from inside. As for me, I was tied up hand and foot and left dangling in the air. After my parents died, Ethan and I fought tooth and nail over the family inheritance. But as it turned out, we were both completely useless. He blew through the entire fortune in no time. After all that struggle, Ethan and I finally accepted the truth. We were just a couple of hopeless screw-ups. To secure a comfortable life, we decided to become professional boy toys. Ethan shacked up with Manhattan's it girl, Monica, while I managed to get my hooks in her older sister, the queen of the Upper East Side, Ava. From that day on, Ethan and I were living the dream. Plenty of money, hardly any work, and zero stress. Those two Vanderbilt heiresses were always swamped, constantly flying off to other countries. Ethan would often sigh and say it was no wonder our company went belly up so quickly after we took it over. We just weren't cut out for real work. We're both homebodies at heart. I love curling up with a good novel, and he's a gaming addict, completely obsessed. Back when we were running the company, we were too lazy to even go on business trips. The business died a quick death in our hands. But lately, a red flag has gone up in our comfortable little paradise. According to a reliable source, the Vanderbilt sisters were getting engaged, and our names were definitely not on the invitations as the grooms. I couldn't bear the thought of giving it up, the god-tier luxury of sleeping until 5 in the afternoon, the comforting goji berry tea in my thermos. I had to ask, is this rumor for real? Ethan, looking exhausted, chewed on a goji berry. "It's real," he said. "I saw them meeting their fiancés with my own 2 eyes." He crushed the berry in his mouth, just like our lives were about to be crushed. The situation was dire. I mean, even as gigolos, we had to have some professional standards. I sighed. "Ethan, my poor brother in arms, looks like the good times are over. Have you saved up enough?" I chugged a big gulp of my goji tea and met his gaze. We knew exactly what the other was thinking. We both bolted to our separate rooms to take stock of our personal savings. We met up again 5 minutes later. A quick calculation showed that with what we had, we could just barely afford to support ourselves for the rest of our lives. Ethan rubbed his aching back. "It's time to get out of here," he said. "Any longer, and my back is going to give out for good. You in?" I nodded sympathetically. "I feel you." In less than a year, we'd been run so ragged, we were drinking wellness teas every day just to keep up. Monica was still young, full of energy and endless new ideas. As for Ava, I scooped the last of the goji berries out of my thermos with a spoon and ate them. Women come and go, but a brother is a part of you. Especially a brother who's on the same wavelength, your partner in crime. Besides, if I didn't run, I'd just be a third wheel, and that's social suicide. If we were really brothers, we'd run together. If we were really going to leave, we could leave anytime. But first, we needed to conserve our strength. After all, it's the ox that gets exhausted from plowing, not the field. My legs felt like jelly. How was I supposed to make a run for it? So when Ava, dressed in an outfit so revealing it should have been illegal, beckoned me into her room, I could only manage one excuse. I have diarrhea. To make it more convincing, I even rushed into the bathroom and pretended to be on the toilet. I shot Ethan an iMessage to check on his situation, and my phone immediately started buzzing like a hornet's nest. I quickly silenced it as messages flooded the screen. We're bailing tomorrow, and we're not looking back. You have no idea how insane she is. Maid outfits, kinky butler costumes, the works. This job is tough, but this life is torture. I'm done. Just reading the texts, I could picture Ethan on the other end, completely losing his mind. In that moment, I felt genuinely lucky. At least Ava was more traditional and wasn't all that wild, kinky stuff. James, are you okay? Should I call the family doctor? Ava's concerned voice came from outside the door. I replied weakly, no, it's fine. My stomach's just a little upset. I'll be okay after some rest. Hearing that, she finally left, seemingly relieved. To be fair, Ava treated me really well, but she was getting engaged. I knew there wasn't much I could do. But strangely enough, all that pretending seemed to make my stomach actually start cramping. And just like that, the first day of our great escape plan ended in total failure. I ended up in the bathroom 11 times that day. Ethan had it worse. He went 13 times. We both ended up on 4 drips administered by the family doctor. Ava found out we'd made ourselves sick by eating all 50 ice cream bars in the freezer and had the butler put locks on all the refrigerators. Ava sighed in exasperation. How old are you? You have no idea how to take care of yourself. I clutched my aching stomach, my whole body feeling weak and sore. I could only come to one conclusion. We had managed to take ourselves out before our escape even began. For the next few days, Ava would periodically bring me a cup of hot water to drink. Was this the legendary just drink more water cure? Even worse, the sisters canceled all their upcoming business trips just to stay home and look after us. 3 days later, Ethan and I finally saw each other again. We started by blaming each other for having no self-control. Then we moved on to panicking together. They had actually canceled a whole month of business trips just to stay home and take care of us. I never would have imagined those 2 workaholics would put their careers on hold for anyone. Ethan scoffed. Don't flatter yourself. It's not for us. It's for their real fiancés. He told me he'd gotten up in the middle of the night and seen Monica in the study, laughing and flirting on a video call with some other guy, even setting up a time to meet. Bro, wake up, he said. We've got 0 chance of ever being the leading man here. My heart sank. For all these years, I'd been the only one by Ava's side. I started to think I was special, that maybe I had a real shot. But in the end, compared to their family name and social standing, I was a nobody. With the sisters hanging around the house all day, our spontaneous escape plan was completely derailed. Ethan and I had no choice but to start working on their personal assistants, dropping hints, and fishing for information until we finally nailed down a window of opportunity. In 5 days, they were both scheduled to go out on dates with their respective fiancés to build the relationship. The problems of the ultra-rich, I swear. They even need their assistants to schedule time for them to get to know their own fiancés. Don't screw this up. Ethan warned me, dead serious. I promised him, if we don't make it out this time, we're officially going to be professional third wheels. To save my strength, I was in bed by 10 that night. But Ava, looking annoyed, kicked me awake. What kind of boy toy are you? Your sugar mama is still up, and you're already passed out? I had no choice but to force myself to stay up and keep her company. The second she looked like she was getting ideas, I'd immediately change the subject, telling terrible dad jokes to distract her. She'd play along and laugh a little, and as she laughed, her hand would find its way to the buttons on my shirt. Sweat beaded on my forehead. I quickly grabbed her hand and launched into another joke with exaggerated passion. I was cringing so hard my toes were curling, but I forced a laugh, managing to kill the mood and completely extinguish her desire. She watched me in silence for a long moment, her eyes raking over me from head to toe. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but I could have sworn her gaze lingered a little too long below my waist. The next day, I stared blankly at the food on the table, and Ethan looked just as horrified. Chicken soup with goji berries, soft-shell turtle soup, leek pastries, and a shot of some herbal liquor. Every single dish was an aphrodisiac meant to boost a man's stamina. Monica was relentless, ladling a huge bowl of the turtle soup and shoving it in front of Ethan. "Ethan, drink up." Ethan held the bowl like a condemned man facing his execution. Ethan downed the soup like he was drinking poison. Throughout the entire meal, Monica kept piling all the so-called potency-boosting foods onto his plate. By the end, he had consumed nearly the entire spread by himself. I couldn't help but glance at him, worried. He was already worn down, and every time Monica was home, he'd be pale and exhausted the next day, barely able to get out of bed. If she completely broke him, our escape plan would be shot. Ethan's hand was shaking as he held his fork, but he gritted his teeth and forced the food down, shooting me a look that said, "I can handle this." I turned away, and my eyes met Ava's, which were filled with concern. We were truly brothers in arms, going through hell together. Not long after the meal, I felt a weird heat rising in me. Everything started to look strange. Even the pillar in the living room started to look kind of sexy. I slapped myself across the face. I couldn't turn into some kind of creep. I'd be crucified on the internet. Then I looked at Ava, whose outfits were getting progressively skimpier. My heart pounded, and I bolted for the gym, where I spent the rest of the night lifting weights. There was no helping it. Ava might have been traditional in some ways, but she was incredibly demanding. She wanted me to be like a hero from one of her billionaire romance novels, a stallion with superhuman stamina. What made it worse was that she loved to take the lead. In bed, I went from being her puppy dog boyfriend to her personal plaything. "My queen, I really can't go on," became my most common refrain. At this rate, I was afraid that by the time our escape day arrived, I wouldn't have the energy to crawl out of the mansion, let alone make a run for it. That night, the light in Ethan's room stayed on all night long, too. The next morning, he emerged with dark circles so deep they looked painted on, frantically stuffing goji berries into his mouth and chewing them loudly. I quietly handed him a glass of warm water. "Monica is really going too far," I said carefully. "I'll talk to Ava about it." Ethan looked up at me, his eyes full of gratitude, like a drowning man grabbing a life raft. Ava did have some influence over her sister, and she hadn't been pushing me too hard lately. So by dodging and weaving, we finally made it to the day of their dates. That day I did something unheard of. I woke up early. I diligently laid out Ava's clothes for her and even joined her for a leisurely breakfast. Ava teased me, "What's this? Have you finally decided to learn how to properly serve your sugar mama?" I didn't respond, just focused on waiting on her hand and foot. I served her food, fetched her purse, found her keys. It was the full 5-star treatment. She barely had to lift a finger. I even put the toothpaste on her toothbrush for her. I had only one goal: get her out of the house as fast as possible. Watching her leisurely sip her coffee and flip through the newspaper was pure agony. When she finally got up to leave, I beamed my most sincere smile and escorted her to the door. Just as she was about to step outside, she suddenly asked, "Looking for some writing inspiration lately?" I froze. I had no idea what she meant and didn't dare give the wrong answer, so I just stared down at my watch, silently begging her to leave. Ava stared at me, her expression growing more intense. Did she suspect something? My heart hammered in my chest. But then, she said something completely unexpected. "Why don't you come with me?" I nearly turned to stone. If I went, what would I be? My writer's brain immediately cooked up a whole dramatic plotline. The heroine shows up with the other guy to make the hero jealous, causing him to have a sudden, life-changing epiphany. No way. I refused to be a part of that romantic drama. I shook my head so hard it felt like it would fly off. What would I even do there? I blurted out, then immediately regretted it. I shut my mouth and just used my body language to refuse. I crossed my arms in a big X over my chest, my face a mask of sincere terror. "Please, I'm not going." But this time, to my surprise, Ava didn't back down. "It's time you met him," she murmured, the tips of her ears turning pink. My heart clenched. I was right. She was going to use me as a prop, a tool to make her fiancé jealous. A wave of disappointment washed over me. I hate those kinds of formal events, I mumbled. Besides, I didn't sleep well last night. I need to catch up. You're not feeling well? She asked. In that case, I'll cancel. I'll stay home with you. She actually started to turn back inside. I'm Fina. I yelped, my voice cracking with panic. Besides, Ethan's here to keep me company. Seeing how insistent I was, Ava finally relented, giving me a look that was pure exasperation. It was unfair how beautiful she was, even when she was rolling her eyes at me. You and Ethan are the inseparable ones, I guess, she said, a hint of jealousy in her voice. Guess I'm not as important. I immediately seized the opportunity. Of course he is. We're brothers, ride or die. I followed that up with a torrent of compliments, laying it on thick until I finally got her in her car and on her way. In theory, it should have been easy for two grown men to make a break for it. The second their car was out of the driveway, we slipped out the back, carrying nothing. Our money was already spread across several online accounts. As long as we had our phones, we were set. And just like that, we boarded the plane with clear consciences. Takeoff was smooth. There were no dramatic, movie-like scenes, no billionaire rushing the gate to stop us. In business class, Ethan and I sat facing each other. He elegantly raised his glass of red wine and clinked it against mine. To freedom, he said. A moment like that called for a devilish grin, so I gave him my biggest, most triumphant one. To our wasted youth, to this smooth red wine, to the clear blue sky. Life was beautiful. After his toast, Ethan started sketching out his plans for a new life. When I get to Paris, he declared, I'm going to have a wild, passionate affair with a beautiful French woman. I was just about to praise him for finally showing some ambition when he added, and then I'll teach her how to play video games so we can rank up together. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. That was so typically Ethan. I've never written a cheesy romance set in Paris, I quipped. Maybe I can use you for inspiration. The look he gave me clearly said, pot, meet kettle. Suddenly, the plane jolted violently, splashing red wine all over us. My heart dropped. Before I could even grab a napkin, a flight attendant hurried over. I'm so sorry, gentlemen, she said, but due to an unforeseen emergency, we have to turn back. It was a bolt from the blue. A strange, mechanical grinding sound echoed through the cabin. Ethan shivered, his teeth chattering. Doesn't this feel like... He started. Like certain people are literally dragging the plane back. I finished, putting heavy emphasis on certain people. We both knew exactly who those certain people were. The chances of a real mechanical failure were slim. The number of people in New York with enough power to force a commercial flight to turn around mid-air could be counted on one hand. But we just took off. How could they have found out so fast? Ethan looked completely bewildered. He tried to stop the flight attendant as she walked away. You can't turn back. Keep flying. It was a useless protest. The plane was already banking back toward the city. When I looked down at the tarmac and saw those two familiar faces, flanked by a solid wall of black-suited bodyguards, my last shred of hope evaporated. The Vanderbilt family was generous, giving every passenger on the flight a $50,000 compensation check, which silenced all complaints. As for Ethan and me, we were escorted into a black SUV and driven straight back to the mansion. Kneeling on a pile of durian shells, Ethan and I shivered uncontrollably. Monica's temper was far more volatile than her sister's. She slammed her hand on the arm of her chair, her face a mask of cold fury. Fine, she finally said. Let's talk somewhere else. The words were barely out of her mouth before two guards grabbed Ethan and started dragging him away. James, help me, he screamed, his voice so pathetic it could make you weep. Let him go, I yelled without thinking. The moment I spoke, Ava was in front of me, grabbing my chin and forcing my head up. Tell me, James, she said, her voice dangerously low. Have I been too good to you? So good you thought you could do whatever you wanted? Next thing I knew, I was tied to the bedposts, and I didn't get a wink of sleep all night. After that marathon session, I was dizzy and my legs felt like cooked spaghetti. I tried to inch away from her, but a long, slender leg hooked around mine and pulled me right back. I let out a pathetic cry. I really can't. I'm completely drained. Thankfully, she didn't push it further this time. She just pulled me into her arms, holding me close. I whispered, I need to check on Ethan. I'm worried about him. Ava, her eyes half closed, murmured lazily, my sister and Ethan are both still asleep. Are you sure you want to go now? I gritted my teeth, trying to keep a safe distance from her. After a long pause, I finally asked the question that had been bugging me. How did you know we were leaving? She snorted and sat up. Two guys who refuse to leave the house unless they have a chauffeur suddenly call a cab and disappear. The butler knew something was off and called us immediately, she explained. If he hadn't been so quick on his feet, you two might have actually gotten away. James, don't you think you owe me an explanation for why you tried to run? I kept my head down, silent. When I finally looked up into her clear, piercing eyes, my throat went dry. I don't want to be a third wheel. She didn't quite hear me and asked me to say it again. I said, I don't want to be a third wheel. Now that I'd started, I figured I might as well get it all out. Her reaction was even more shocked than mine. When did you become a third wheel? I told her everything I'd heard, all the rumors about her and Monica having arranged marriages with another powerful family, that their fiancés were already chosen. I took a deep breath. We're not the type to overstay our welcome. If you're getting married, just let Ethan and me go. Her frown deepened as I spoke. So that's why you were so dead set against coming with me the other day? A surge of indignation rose in me. What? Did you expect me to be a prop for your date? But then a thought struck me. This whole situation could actually make for some great writing material. I was about to play the "It's for my art" card, but Ava shot me a look like I was a complete moron. What kind of crazy stuff are you thinking? She asked. Are all writers this dramatic? I was meeting a childhood friend that day, she explained. He just got back in the country with his new girlfriend, and they wanted to meet my boyfriend. That's why I asked you to come. So, you actually like me? I asked, incredulous. Then why do you always act like you're my sugar mama? She handed me her phone. It was open to my Twitter feed. You're the one who posted about wanting to experience life as a kept man for creative inspiration, she said. I was just playing along, giving you material. I had no idea you actually thought of me as just your benefactor. I stared at my own words on the screen, completely frozen. A wave of mortifying shame washed over me. Her profile picture was right there at the top of my followers list. She was my #1 fan. Some people walk around as if they don't have a brain in their head. Avis said coolly, Did you really think I'd just pick up some random guy and keep him around? She arched an eyebrow at me. Looking at this powerful, beautiful woman, it finally clicked. She was obsessed with the cheesy billionaire romance novels I wrote. She'd been following me since I was a completely unknown writer with no audience. No wonder some of the things she said sounded so familiar. They were lines straight out of my book, like a live-action reenactment of a scene from The Billionaire's Tender Heart. I was so embarrassed I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. When did you figure out I was the author? I asked, feeling a rare wave of shyness. My feelings for her were suddenly a tangled mess. First, she was my sugar mama, then my biggest fan, and now, a genuine heiress to a fortune. That time you went 18 days without posting an update, she said. I was so furious, I had my people run a full background check on you. The warmth drained from my face. This wasn't a romantic comedy moment. This was a lock him in a room until he finishes the book moment. After your family went bankrupt, I was going to offer you some help, she continued. But then you were the one who insisted on being my man. Please stop, I groaned. This is beyond humiliating. I thought about her pushing me to be a marathon man in bed, about the closet full of bespoke suits she'd had made for me, each one tailored to perfection. She really did like me. I couldn't help it. I leaned in and kissed her, shutting her up before she could reveal any more of my embarrassing history. I didn't pull away until she was gasping for air. A confession was something a man should make. Ava, I said, I think I fell for you the moment I saw you. Why else would I have been so willing to be your boy toy if I didn't actually like you? Her face flushed a deep crimson, and she didn't say a word. But her blush said it all. I pulled her into a tight embrace, rolling with her across the bed. I lay in bed, giggling like a complete idiot. I was lost in my own happy world when a shove brought me back to reality. I looked up to see Ethan, his face as dark as a thundercloud. "What's so funny?" he growled. I grinned. "How did you know Ava liked me?" Ethan was silent for a moment, his expression looking like he'd been gut-punched. "Are we brothers?" he finally asked. "If we are, you have to help me." It was only then that I really understood. Ethan's situation was nothing like mine. He had only gotten involved with Monica because he was a dead ringer for her unforgettable first love. He was a replacement, and he'd only just found this out himself. "I could be your lover," he said, his voice tight, "but I will never be a stand-in." That was his line in the sand. It was mine, too. Back when Ethan disappeared, the Harrison family went nuts and dragged me in to take his place. I had my own parents, but the Harrisons had them killed in a staged car accident. When Ethan was finally found and brought home, he was disgusted to find a replica living in his house. After that, we joined forces to take down the insane Harrison family, and then we turned on each other, fighting over what was left of the inheritance. By the end of it all, he learned my whole story. He didn't say a word, just handed the company over to me. It was through all those brutal fights that we became brothers. We were blood brothers in every way that mattered, except for the blood. I know him. He was genuinely falling for Monica. Otherwise, even with his family name, he never would have stooped so low as to be someone's paid companion. But she had crossed his one uncrossable line. Staying with her now would be pure torture. And since he's my brother, I had to help him get out. A brilliant idea struck me. I changed into a brand new suit, spritzed on some cologne, and perched myself on the edge of the desk in what I imagined was a devastatingly sexy pose. I made sure all the right muscles were flexed, just waiting for a certain someone to walk in and set the scene for our fateful encounter. This wasn't seduction, it was artistic foreplay. But fate had other plans. "Ava, you have to talk to James," Monica's voice said, getting closer. "Ethan is insisting on leaving." I glanced down. My suit jacket was only fastened by the bottom button, my chest almost completely bare. I looked like a criminal about to commit a crime. If my future sister-in-law walked in on this. Wait, my future sister-in-law was about to walk in on this. The doorknob rattled. I flipped off the desk and scrambled underneath it, crouching there, not daring to breathe. Thankfully, they stopped by the sofa on the other side of the room. Ava's voice was laced with disappointment. "What are you thinking, Monica? I thought you really liked Ethan." After a long pause, Monica dodged the question. "Ava, just get James to talk to him. He'll listen to his brother." Ava wasn't buying it. "What's your game here? It's been years since that whole thing with Liam. Don't tell me you're actually using Ethan as a replacement." Monica sounded confused. "I don't know. I need to think. I'm not sure what I feel right now." So this was a classic, I want to have my cake and eat it too situation. What piece of work. My poor brother. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I shot up from under the desk. "Monica," I'd barely gotten the words out when I realized Monica was gone. Only Ava was left, sitting on the sofa, watching my dramatic entrance with an amused expression. Her eyes traveled slowly from my face down to my half-open shirt. A chill shot on my spine. I fought the urge to cover my chest. A man has to maintain his composure. Ava set down her wine glass and crooked a finger at me. "Come here." That night, the desk in the study creaked for a very, very long time. Ethan was basically under house arrest. He vented to me. "James, she told me that if I just stick around while she figures things out with Liam, she'll know who to choose." He looked at me, his eyes terrifyingly blank. Am I just a piece of property to her? I spun around and marched to Ava's door, practically pounding on it. "Let Ethan go," I yelled. Ava stood up, but her words sent a chill through me. I know my sister is confused right now. She just needs time to figure out what she really wants. She'll get there eventually. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And my brother is supposed to just pay the price for her confusion? Ava gave me a strange look. Shouldn't you be supporting him through this? Don't forget, he chose to be Monica's lover. And Monica is the second largest shareholder in the Vanderbilt Corporation. Your brother isn't exactly losing out by being with her. Her casual, dismissive tone made it sound like my brother's suffering was just a reasonable price to pay. I let out a long, heavy sigh. I didn't know what was more chilling. In the end, Ethan and I were the ones who were wrong. We never belonged in this world of the super-rich. The gap was too wide, and we were fools to think we could close it just by being their lovers. Our so-called dream had been a mistake from the start. I stared at her in silence for a long moment, then turned to leave without a word. What was I to her? Did she see me as just another transaction? To wait for her to figure herself out? Who did she think she was, playing both sides and expecting someone to just wait patiently in the wings? From that night on, I stopped sleeping with Ava. I kept a close eye on Ethan, terrified he might do something stupid. He wasn't heartbroken anymore. He was incandescent with rage. Even a bad gamer will fight to the death for their favorite character. He spent his days glued to his computer, screaming at me through his headset. Watch your positioning, you idiot. Are you trying to walk into their ultimate? Team fight's on. Where the hell are you? Slacking off again. A bot could play better than you just did. You had full health, and you couldn't even finish off a guy with a sliver left. Are you even trying? With every yell, he seemed to get a little bit of his old fire back. I, on the other hand, was completely drained from the constant verbal abuse. A few times, Ava tried to talk to me, but I just ignored her and walked away. We were on opposite sides. There was nothing more to say. Monica went on as usual, leaving early and coming home late, as if nothing had changed. Videos of her out shopping with Liam started popping up on TikTok, the two of them laughing together, looking like the perfect couple. Ethan would watch the clips in silence, but his name was all over the comment sections. People called him a seat warmer, saying that now that her real love was back, the stand-in should have the decency to disappear. I was so furious I created a dozen burner accounts and spent hours fighting with trolls online. My phone got so hot, I thought it was going to explode. Ethan's cold indifference finally started to get to Monica. One night, she came home drunk and pointed a finger in his face. "Do you have any idea who you are?" she yelled. "What right do you have to give me the silent treatment?" I heard the shouting and rushed out, ready to tear into her. But Ethan stopped me with a single look. He forced a smile and slipped back into character. The perfect, doting lover, gentle and flawlessly obedient. The only thing that had changed was that, deep down, he no longer gave a damn. But Monica grew more and more agitated, taking all her frustrations out on him. He never fought back, just continued to play the part of the perfect boyfriend. "Why don't you get angry?" she screamed at him one night. "Don't you have any pride?" She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I grabbed a six-pack and went to find Ethan. We didn't need to say anything. We just sat there, drinking one beer after another. Ethan let out a small burp. "Don't worry about me, James," he said slowly. "I can afford to lose this round." I could tell he had really let her go. As his brother, I couldn't let him down. After that, Ethan's performance became even more convincing. Every time Monica came back from seeing her first love, Liam, she'd pick a fight, and Ethan would demand some expensive gift as compensation. Monica seemed to get hooked on the drama, thinking his demands were a sign of his deep love for her. But as time went on, she started seeing her old flame less and less. Instead, she'd spend more time just staring at Ethan, lost in thought. It looked like she was finally starting to figure things out. She started coming home a little earlier each day, and she was treating Ethan better. And Ethan? He accepted everything she offered, never refusing but never asking for more. The guards watching us started to relax their vigilance. I just watched from the sidelines as this strange dance played out, until one day, Ethan suddenly said, "Hey, let's take them to watch the sunrise." In the pre-dawn gloom, Ethan walked ahead, holding Monica's hand. They looked like any other happy couple. Ava and I trailed behind them. We hadn't really talked in a long time. The silence between us was suffocating. "I practically raised Monica," Ava said suddenly, her voice soft. "I spoiled her. Don't be too hard on her. She can be a little slow when it comes to matters of the heart." She was trying to ease the tension, extending an olive branch. I kept my eyes on the ground as I walked. I knew all I had to do was say, "I understand," and we could go back to the way things were. "See," she added, "they've made up. Don't be angry anymore, okay?" I looked over at Ethan. He was standing next to Monica, but he looked like he was slowly dying inside. Couldn't they see how miserable he was? No, it wasn't that they couldn't see it. They just didn't care. To them, we were just pets. fun to play with when they were in the mood, but even when they got bored, they had no intention of ever really setting us free. Ava, I asked quietly, will you marry me? Her silence was all the answer I needed. It was just like that day she'd insisted the man she was meeting wasn't her fiancé, but she'd never once denied that an engagement was happening. She'd said the man was already married, but still had an official girlfriend on the side. Everyone in their circle was like that, and it was disgusting. It meant that all this time, I really had been just a toy. The last, lingering trace of hope I had vanished in that instant. Ava tried to smooth it over. Isn't this nice? Even after I get married, we can still see each other. Nothing has to change for you. I felt a wave of nausea. Is this really how you people live? I asked, my voice filled with disgust. Marriage is just a business deal. What did you just say? She snapped, her head whipping up to look at me. I just smiled and didn't say another word. Ava leaned her head on my shoulder as we watched the sun come up. She laced her fingers through mine and squeezed, as if she was terrified I would pull away and leave her forever. Ethan and I made a plan to visit a monastery up in the mountains. Ava agreed easily. Fine, she said, but be back early. I guess because we hadn't tried to escape recently, they were getting complacent. They only stationed a few guards at the base of the mountain. There was only one trail leading down the mountain, a slow, winding path. But Ethan and I were old hands from our college skydiving club. The moment the guards were out of sight, we took a running leap off the edge of the cliff. The feeling of weightlessness, the sudden drop, it was a pure adrenaline rush. This was what it felt like to be alive. We're out, I yelled. Our parachutes blossomed open, and we caught the wind, drifting further and further away. Honestly, in the moment I finally cut ties and left Ava behind, I felt an incredible sense of relief. It wasn't long before the news of her engagement was all over the New York Society pages. A perfect match between two powerful families, a golden couple, a match made in heaven. The media gushed, using all the tired old phrases. Thanks to Ava's brilliant move, the Vanderbilt stock shot through the roof. She was never the type to let love get in the way of business. As for Monica, she never stopped sending people to look for Ethan. Ethan just scoffed. Is she crazy? What's her game now, playing the victim? Did she think being her lover was a life sentence? In his mind, Monica had to be delusional to think we'd ever go back. Looking back on it now, he said, being into her feels like some stupid mistake I made in a past life. After leaving the Vanderbilts, Ethan and I went back to our old lives. He started earning money as a gaming coach and account booster, and I went back to my editors hounding me for the next chapter. We were back to being the same two broke brothers, struggling and taking crap together. Life in the small town was slow, and the days just drifted by. Ethan was the first to get a girlfriend, a girl who was just as obsessed with gaming as he was. I was still single. It wasn't that I was heartbroken. I just had no time for dating between deadlines. One day, I went to a writer's conference in the next town over and was gone for a full day. The moment I got back to town, I knew something was wrong. The streets were unusually crowded, and I could feel several pairs of eyes fixed on me. I knew that kind of attention could only mean one person. I sprinted home, and sure enough, there was an uninvited guest in our living room. Monica stood there, her eyes red and puffy, glaring at Ethan, who was standing protectively in front of his girlfriend. I hadn't seen her in a year. Monica had changed. Most of that arrogant, spoiled princess attitude was gone. What did I do wrong? She asked, her voice trembling. Why are you treating me like this? Ethan's face was like stone. I told you, he said coldly. I'm not a replacement for anyone. Monica looked lost. I told you. I didn't realize it first. But I've changed now. This wasn't my fight, so I found a chair and settled in to watch the show. Ethan took a deep breath, giving the girl beside him a reassuring squeeze on the arm. Then he turned back to Monica. What on earth made you think I would just wait for you? Yes, I liked you once, he admitted. But that feeling died the moment I found out I was just a stand-in. Please, just leave. Don't bother me anymore. Monica's eyes flicked to the girl behind him, looking her up and down with pure contempt. Her? This is what you've settled for, she sneered. Does she know you used to be my boy toy? Ethan's fists clenched. He had humbled himself, debased himself, just for a chance to be near the woman he liked. And now, She was twisting that affection into something ugly and shameful. Monica, it was a transaction, Ethan said, his voice flat. We both got what we wanted. Stop this. You're just making yourself look pathetic. He had made his position perfectly clear. I expected her to throw a fit, slam the door, and leave, just like the spoiled princess she was. Instead, her expression hardened. Take him, she ordered. Before Ethan could even react, two men had him in handcuffs and were dragging him out the door. I called 911 immediately, but it was useless. It was like the call never went through. There was only one person in the world who could control Monica, her sister. So I went to find Ava. I walked straight into the Vanderbilt estate, and surprisingly, no one stopped me. The mansion was eerily quiet. When I pushed open the door to the study, she was there, leaning against the window, watching me silently. The woman who once made my heart race just by being in the same room now felt like a complete stranger. Neither of us spoke. I was too worried about Ethan to play games. Can you please control your sister? I asked bluntly. My brother and I just want to be left alone. Ava's presence was even more commanding than I remembered. And what's in it for me if I help you? She asked, her eyes meeting mine. The implication was crystal clear. I felt nothing. I was just curious. Haven't you been helping us all along? I asked. We've been hiding out in that small town for a year. If they'd really wanted to find us, they could have done it in a week. Only Ava could have kept Monica in the dark while simultaneously covering our tracks. I didn't care what her reasons were anymore. I missed you, she whispered, stepping closer and wrapping her arms around me. I could feel her breath on my chest. Come back to me, James. We could be like we were before. If you come back, I can make you the biggest name in online fiction, she murmured, her voice a devil's whisper in my ear. I took a step back. Marry me, I said. Then I'll come back. She froze. She couldn't do it. She had to marry into another powerful family to secure her position, to get a bigger piece of the pie. Can you just wait a few years? She pleaded. I promise, after that, I'll marry you. The Vanderbilt Empire is my parents' legacy. I can't just. Ava, I interrupted. No one should be expected to wait forever. She and her sister were exactly alike. They both just assumed the world would wait for them. We're on different paths now, I said. The atmosphere in the room turned ice cold. James, I am not a person you want to cross, she said, her voice chilling. Anything my sister can do, I can do better. A normal person can't fight this kind of power. I was a prisoner in this mansion, and the staff just looked right through me. No one would help. Ava grabbed my hand, her grip like steel. Look around, she said. This is the power I command. Stay with me, and one day, it could all be yours. We were standing on the top floor of the mansion. It wasn't a skyscraper, but when she spoke, it felt like the entire city was laid out at her feet. She had the power to change fortunes, to crush people with a single command. Then marry me, I repeated. She could give me anything and everything, except that one thing. The Vanderbilts needed an alliance, a strategic merger with another dynasty to secure their future. I understood how hard it was for her. I even believed that she genuinely liked me. But she could never marry me. All I wanted was her. She wanted the world. We were never destined to walk the same path. Worried I was getting stir-crazy, Ava offered to take me out. We were sitting in a private booth at a restaurant when the door opened and another couple walked in. I looked up and almost burst out laughing. Sitting across from me was Ava's fiancé, Carter Sterling. She had brought her boyfriend, and he had brought his girlfriend. After a brief, polite greeting, Ava introduced me as her boyfriend. Carter, completely unfazed, introduced the woman beside him as his girlfriend. His voice was deep and carried an air of authority. Mr. Miller, he said, addressing me, my relationship with Miss Vanderbilt is purely a business arrangement. After the wedding, we will have no private contact outside of official functions. I will not interfere with your relationship, just as she will not interfere with mine. He glanced at the woman beside him as he finished. They then launched into a discussion about market trends, talking as if they were the only two people in the room. The conversation naturally drifted to their wedding plans, dates, logistics, the guest list. The woman beside him was obviously used to this. She listened to the man she loved calmly plan his wedding to another woman, a perfect, polite smile fixed on her face. But I could see the hollow look in her eyes. I'd heard she was his first love, the real deal. But he wouldn't give her a real title. Instead, he paraded her in front of his fiancée. That wasn't love. That was clipping her wings. He was telling her, in no uncertain terms, that she would always be his mistress, hidden away in the shadows. It was a complete annihilation of her dignity. I watched him lead her away, and there was nothing I could do. My sympathy was pointless. At the end of the day, I was just a toy, too. That night, Ava was in high spirits, and she had a little too much to drink. She drunkenly dragged me off to what she called her secret hideout. It was just a normal room. She pulled me inside and proudly showed me an entire wall of bookshelves filled with every book I had ever written, all of them signed first editions. They weren't exactly priceless artifacts, but each one was meticulously displayed. "This was your first published book," she said. The signed copies were inserted randomly, so I had to buy dozens of them just to find one with your signature. "And look at this," she said, pointing to a framed certificate on the wall. "This is your third-place award from that writing contest. I was so happy for you." The wall was covered in my awards, some I didn't even remember winning. There were photos of me, too, even snapshots from my quiet life back in the small town. She had known where I was all along, just watching from a distance. She wrapped her arms around me from behind. "I gave you time," she whispered, "but you couldn't forget me, so I brought you back. James, why can't we just go back to the way things were?" The entire room was a shrine to how much she cared about me. Honestly, who wouldn't be moved? To have someone who knew you so well, who cared so much, who was willing to give you everything except for a wedding ring. And she was brilliant, powerful, and breathtakingly beautiful. For a second, I was tempted, but only for a second. In the next instant, the clarity returned. We could never truly be together. I'm a writer. I've written countless stories about undying love. And because of that, I know better than anyone that marriage is the most basic form of respect two people in love can offer each other. And that was the one thing she couldn't give me. Sooner or later, she would marry another man. I gently removed her hands from my shoulders, and, meeting her disappointed gaze, I shook my head. Ava didn't understand. She had laid her entire heart at my feet. She couldn't understand why I was being so cruel. "Is marriage really that important?" she finally asked, her voice full of disbelief. I didn't have the energy to explain it to her. Instead, the image of Carter's girlfriend flashed in my mind. "Do you honestly think that's a good life for me?" I countered. Ava grabbed my hand and pressed it against her chest. "Power, status, money," she said, "and a heart that belongs only to you. What more could you possibly want?" Beneath my palm, I could feel her heart beating, fast and strong. "Ava, we're just not compatible," I said. "Put yourself in my shoes for a second. Would you really be happy with that arrangement?" I answered my own question. "Yes, you would. Because you're ambitious. You'd do anything to get to the top. But I'm not," I said. "None of that means anything to me." If she really understood me as well as she claimed, she wouldn't keep circling back to power and wealth. Ava was smart. She understood exactly what I was saying. She just didn't want to accept it. After being rejected for the third time, her expression began to harden. I said nothing more. A moment later, Ava's phone rang. Her face went pale as she listened. "Ethan jumped," she said, her voice a choked whisper. When I got to the hospital, Monica was sitting outside the operating room, her eyes vacant, fixed on the glowing red light above the door. I didn't even think. I just walked up and slapped her hard across the face. She didn't even flinch, just kept staring at the door. "If anything happens to my brother, I swear I will make you pay," I snarled, completely losing control. I grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the wall. Her eyes rolled back in her head as she gasped for air. It took a group of people to pull me off her. I glared at both her and Ava with pure hatred. Ava didn't even move to defend her sister. She just stood there, trembling. "Don't look at me like that," she whispered. "Don't talk to me, Ava," I spat. "You make me sick." People like them. If they can't have something, they have to destroy it. They'll drag you down with them, even if it means destroying themselves in the process. I I couldn't believe people like that actually existed. After Monica was led away, I paced the hallway outside the OR, my mind racing with 1,000 ways to make her pay. But when the doctor finally came out and said Ethan only had a few broken bones, all that murderous rage just vanished. When Ethan woke up, he was grinning like an idiot. I raised my hand, ready to smack some sense into him, but then I saw the cast on his leg and couldn't do it. The kid was truly fearless. He was lucky he'd only jumped from the second story. Any higher, and I'd be planning his funeral. Monica came to the hospital to beg for forgiveness several times after that, but Ethan treated her like she was invisible. He wouldn't even look at her. Her love had come too late, and now it was worthless. I found out later that Ethan had jumped to get away from her, because she was trying to force him to stay. In that moment, I wanted to kill her. In front of both of us, Ava slapped her sister hard across the face. "You're the one who drove him away," she said, her voice cold. "The Vanderbilts know when to cut their losses. Stop embarrassing the family." Monica had completely lost her mind. She knelt outside Ethan's room for hours, swearing she wouldn't get up until he forgave her. Inside, Ethan was busy racking up a winning streak on his game. She fainted at one point, and when she came to, she declared she was going to marry him. It was laughable. Even Ava couldn't marry who she wanted. What made Monica think she could? A while later, Ava sent me a text. She said Monica wouldn't be bothering us anymore. I heard they'd basically put her under house arrest. I told Ethan, watching him carefully for any sign that he still cared. But he was too busy with his new girlfriend to even care. After Ethan's jump, Ava stopped trying to pull me back in her orbit. She came to see me one last time before I left the city. "It's like we're strangers now," she said quietly. "My fiancé's girlfriend, she jumped too. She was pregnant. They almost lost her. Carter is losing his mind. His family is forcing her to keep the baby, but it will be born with the stigma of being illegitimate. She's a stubborn girl. She'd rather die." "You were right, James. We are different." Ava hugged me one last time. "I don't want to end up like her, full of regret," she said. "I wish you the best, James." She still didn't quite get it. That all those things she valued, power, status, money, meant nothing to people like me and Carter's girlfriend. But at least she was letting me go. Goodbye, Ava. Ethan and I went back to our small town. After everything we'd been through, he was the only one left by my side. Just two stubborn guys against the world. "You really don't regret it?" Ethan asked me one day. "I really think Ava was in love with you." I rolled my eyes and smacked him on the back of the head. "Monica's been apologizing to you for months. How come you haven't forgiven her?" The moment I mentioned her name, Ethan's face soured. "Don't talk about her. She's bad news." Eventually, Ethan got married and had a kid, and I became the cool uncle. Ava got married too, to Carter Sterling, who hadn't changed a bit. I never found out what happened to the woman who jumped for him. I just hope she found the courage to leave. Under Ava's leadership, the Vanderbilt empire flourished. She and her husband were a perfect match, two sides of the same ambitious coin. As for Monica, I heard she finally got together with her first love, Liam, and she tried to mold him into a replacement for Ethan. But Liam was no fool. The second he realized he was a stand-in, he blackmailed the Vanderbilts for a huge sum of money and gave Monica a black eye for good measure. Worried she'd cause more trouble, Ava had her sister shipped off to Europe. Our chaotic lives were finally starting to get interesting. Sometimes I wonder if everyone who's been burned by love ends up in the same place to heal. I thought about this as I looked at Chloe. She was my ex's husband's ex-girlfriend. Her name was Chloe. We'd both been through similar heartbreaks, so I went out of my way to help her find a place in town. She was still deeply in love with him and hadn't been able to move on. So I started showing her around, taking her to all the best spots in and around our little town. As we got closer, I started calling her by her first name. There's something about this simple, everyday rhythm of life that has a way of healing you. A broken heart, steeped long enough in good food and beautiful scenery, eventually starts to mend. After a while, she was finally able to talk about her past without breaking down. But Ethan kept looking back and forth between us, a mischievous glint in his eye. I knew he was cooking up some ridiculous romantic fantasy in his head. I smacked him on the back of the head, and he yelped. The four of us were supposed to go on a hike, but Ethan and his wife suddenly backed out. He kept pushing Chloe towards me. "You two go on ahead," he said. "I have a headache. I need to lie down." I stopped. "Brothers before hoes," I said. "I'll stay with you." He shot me a look of pure disgust and shoved me away. "Get out of here, you lonely bastard." I knew he meant well, but Chloe and I were just friends. Neither of us had ever thought of it any other way. Then Chloe looked at me, her expression serious. "If you don't mind," she said, "we could be roommates. We could live together." She looked so earnest. I smiled and ruffled her hair. "Sure," I said, "as roommates, like a brother and sister." "Silly girl," I added gently. "Just because you've been hurt once doesn't mean you'll never find love again. You've got a long road ahead of you." I casually glanced at the news on my phone, and a familiar headline caught my eye. Vanderbilt heiress AVA Vanderbilt and Carter Sterling T.O. divorce. A small note at the bottom mentioned that the couple had no children. What was going on? As I was puzzling over it, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Ava standing on my doorstep, a brilliant smile on her face. She looked almost exactly the same. In the distance, I could see Chloe running, chased by a tall man with a lazy gait and a smug, happy grin on his face. Ava tilted her chin up at me. "James," she said, "I bought the house next door." So persistent. Life, it seemed, was always full of surprises. What happened next? Who knew? The core of this story is the awakening from being a toy to becoming a player. It reveals a simple truth. Any comfort you trade your dignity for will eventually become a cage. The character's escape wasn't about running away. It was about reclaiming the power to define themselves. Ultimately, the story suggests that true freedom lies in holding onto a dignity that can't be bought, in becoming the master of your own life instead of a pawn in someone else's game.